Ding, 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 ding.
Well, and we have the barking dogs, which, by the way, even Steve Vai thinks are awesome. So
I think it must be like Gardner Day today, and they're both just going insane. Hey, Matt, I got my drum set today.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Obviously, Agent Danger and Polyester are not into my drumming side of life. They're all pissed off.
Did you get it set up yet?
It just went to the door. That's why they were going crazy.
Oh, gotcha. We should have an unboxing, a random unboxing.
Yeah, we'll take all of your time and just unbox the drums.
Hey, I love good unboxing.
Love your pink, jacket, but we're gonna unbox drums now.
Definitely.
When I said
unbox guitars all the time on my shows, it's all good. Yes.
When I said we didn't prepare, I really meant it. We have to make up content during this whole thing. We don't know what we're doing.
Well, it's only been 2 minutes and 18 seconds, so we're fine. So why don't you introduce our guest, Matt, and give a little quick bio about why she's so awesome.
Okay. So back in the year 2008, 2009, a little company called Google released their first social media network called Google Plus. And as many of you guys know, I've told this story way too many times and you're probably bored by it, but part of that story is sitting here in this room right now. So Daria Musk, hi. And
it wasn't that long ago.
I know it wasn't. Well, so
nobody knows what the hell you're talking about, Matt. We got to regenerate.
Mike, you're interrupting the flow, man. We got to be chill.
There is no flow. I just want people to know how awesome she is. Just get to the.
All right. So Daria, when I first got on Google Plus, I was trying to replicate the success of MySpace as a musician. I didn't have a record. I didn't have anything. So I was like, how can I do that? Right. So when I got the first day the public opened up for Google Plus, I got in and I'm like, where's all the musicians? So I went in and I really didn't get anybody on my page. And I was like, this kind of sucks, man. Where's all the action here? I heard there was a lot of hype here. So I noticed that somebody was talking about Google Hangouts and I was like, maybe that's where the action is, right? So I just started poking around and I got my first Hangout and, I was like, who's the coolest musician on here? Everyone's like, Daria Musk. And I'm like, who's Daria Musk? She's like, oh, she's this great singer-songwriter. And she goes and she plays these concerts in the Google Hangouts for 7 people at a time. And then everybody just shares all of her music and everything. And I was like, well, how many followers did she get in the beta? And they're like, oh, she's like 200,000 or 300,000, I think. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. I was like, so I tried to get in a Daria Musk hangout. I couldn't get in because it's 7 people.
It's 10 people. It was 10 people.
Okay.
So
well,
not 9 plus me, but yeah.
I'm a dude with bad memory. So
it's all good.
Yeah. But so not a big Coliseum full of people. So I was like, well, so I finally get in a Daria Musk hangout and Daria's playing her guitar. And I think I was in the one of the ones where you had the map on the wall and you were putting pins in for everyone in their location. Yeah.
You can't see any countries anymore. It's just completely covered.
Yeah.
I'm like, Uruguay must be there. I don't know.
Yeah. So she'd have this giant map behind her. And so when she would do the show and she would interact with people, she would put a pin in the map where they were at. And so it was really cool, And I was like, that's cool. I was like, but I'm not like a super joyful, enthusiastic, happy, attractive musician. I am just a dude in the military that plays guitar a little bit. How am I going to do what she's doing? So I was like, guitar solos. No one's doing guitar solos. And I was like, I'm going to be the rock guitar player on Google Plus. And so I just started doing it and I learned who I needed to do it in front of. And eventually I started getting 10,000 followers a day, which was great. So anyway, so here we are. So Daria's been, we've kind of, Google Plus died and they collapsed and deleted it. And it was horrible and it's sad. But Daria has been kind of doing her own journey from that, and I've been doing my journey separately. And so recently we reconnected on Clubhouse. And
by the way, I'm not dead. I'm still journeying myself. Thank you very much.
yeah, but you're not even on Clubhouse. You don't even have an iPhone. So
You gotta get in on there, man.
I'm fine just being the little guy on an island somewhere who doesn't care.
yeah, but you could be on Necker. If you had an iPhone, you could be on Necker Island like Brian. No,
I couldn't.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Yeah, we have a friend who hangs out with Richard Branson. That's never going to happen. It's really awesome to look at his Facebook feed and go, oh, there's Brian in a hot tub with Richard Branson. Oh, there's Brian playing chess with Richard Branson. Oh, there's Brian having breakfast with Richard Branson. It's really fun. But anyway, we're off topic. So, Daria, with Google Hangouts going bye-bye, and a lot of what Matt and I are trying to get people to kind of grok on the kingdom of rock is, as you know, the music industry has been devastated by COVID, and people have had to pivot, or people have had to look at other avenues to not only promote themselves, but hopefully to make some revenue. So as you had already had a fight into this world, as did Matt, when COVID hit, was there a re-strategizing of your music delivery, or did you simply engage harder with what you were doing, or was it something else?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, so to circle back, Matt, great retelling of the story. It was actually really fun for me when we reconnected recently, and I got to hear the whole thing from your perspective, because I didn't know any of that was going on for you at all. From my perspective, I've been a singer-songwriter for as long as I can remember, basically. I started playing guitar at 13, started writing songs right away, like 3 chords and the truth, just going for it. And started playing coffee shops and open mics and wherever anybody would have me, and have my parents sneaking me into bars so that I could play for people. And I had just been doing that and always got a great reaction from the 3 people that would be in those rooms, but didn't really know how to build it into something more. And the day before I joined Google Plus, I had actually played a really great show, a pretty big show in my little local hometown big theater. And then the next weekend played a dive bar in the middle of nowhere, in upstate New York. And I was lugging my amps through this torrential downpour and just feeling really sorry for myself. And then I got a call from my older brother who was like, hey, there's this new social network and maybe you should check it out, and blah, blah, blah. And I've told this story a million times too, but yeah, I got on there and I saw Hangouts and I was like, maybe I could use this to play a show without having to lug my amps through the rain. And that was how that started, and the first show of those little faces, those little 9 windows popped up with people from all over the world. And I played a song and they clapped, and I just started bawling because I realized I had toured the world in one song, and this was a really big deal to me back then. And I think it's been really beautiful to have come up in that way, to kind of have the internet be my hometown when I first broke, because that thrill never wears off. Even when I do live streams today, I just actually finished 100 days of doing 1 song a day on Instagram, just for fun, to kick off this year. And every time I play and someone's like, I'm in South Africa, I'm in Australia, it's 6 a.m. here, it's 3 a.m. there, it's midnight here, I think that it's something maybe people start to take for granted, and we shouldn't. It's totally unbelievable, and to answer your question, Mike, when the pandemic hit, well, we could talk about that. It goes into a different story, but I actually kind of did the opposite of what I think people expected me to do. I sort of cocooned and went inward and started writing. And so I have an album that I'm recording now, and I'm really, really excited to drop. But yeah, I've only just sort of emerged from my little cocoon recently. Sort of took a year to keep everyone safe and reflect. And yeah.
Well, it's interesting because as Matt and I have brought to the fore a lot of times when we talk to musicians, is there's a certain, it doesn't mean that they're my age or your age or younger than us, but there's a certain musician that just never grokked the internet thing.
Yeah,
it was always about lugging your amp in the rain, wondering why you're doing it, and showing up with people. trust me, I would have rather played for 10 people in my house than lugging, and down an alleyway to play at a club for the same amount of people. But it's interesting because now, here we are where that's kind of basically the only way to do it. And we're seeing a surge of musicians and artists who would never have done a live stream all of a sudden buying in.
Yeah. And
it's been that fear thing too, where, if I don't know how much is factored into your career, but when you're playing a club, everybody lies. Oh yeah, there was 1,000 people there. Oh yeah, there was, but because no one really knows unless they were there. But if I'm doing a live stream on Google Hangouts or YouTube or whatever, 7 people, or 8 people, all of a sudden you have to tell your friends that only 8 people showed up to my concert, which is, I think it's soul crunching for some, but it's interesting that you actually built your community, little bits by little bits, which is inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, it was really interesting. So there's a lot of thinking I've done around this since then. There is a bit of like ego death at the beginning, right? And I think that that's actually a really beautiful and important thing to embrace. And I ended up calling it the gratitude shift, where I realized like, I had been playing for even less people in most of the shows, like when you're playing a coffee shop, you're playing for 3 people and an espresso machine, which then you're trying to sing over, you know what I mean? And so I found this sort of gratitude shift where I was so grateful for every single person. Like, I'm sure you guys feel the same way, as musicians. I think most of us are just, it's in us. Like, we have to do this. There are so many other things that you could do. And actually, as I've grown up into my career and kind of just into my life, I've discovered how many other passions intersect with music and with the stuff that I love to do, which is really thrilling. I definitely believe in being a polymath or being an artistpreneur, as I call it, and grabbing like all of those passions and bringing them into your toolbox, but being able to just be like, I love. What?
Could you specify some of those?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd love to talk you guys through it. Yeah, I mean, recently, like over time, as I started to lean into this idea of like being an artistpreneur, it's like, if I'm going to do this, I'm the CEO of my company. I got to do everything. And so the things that I discovered that I really love and that are a huge part of what I do now is like, I'm also a filmmaker now. And that only happened in the last couple of years. I picked up a camera because the stuff that other people were filming for me, I was in when the Google Plus thing went really big. I was in tons of commercials and like did lots and lots of big stuff. And I would see the films back and the ads back and stuff and be like, oh, that's kind of cheesy, or like, that's not how I would have done it, and realized that maybe I had an idea of how I would like those things done. So just grabbed a little Sony, like, little mirrorless camera and started goofing around. And now that's almost like half of the work that I do. I'm actually working on a series now that I'm very excited about called, actually, I don't know if I've said the name of it anywhere. I can tell you guys it's called Unmastered, like everything that happens before the music is mastered. And I'm really, really psyched about it. But to get back to that
just to hit on that for a second while we're here, you mean from the songwriting to the recording to the to the idea to sitting in a bedroom waiting for the muse to hit you, all that stuff?
Exactly. Yeah. I am so endlessly fascinated by music and how music is made. And one of the things that I think is thrilling about the like mystical, metaphysical, ephemeral nature of being a musician and writing is that, I'm sure you guys know this, the more you talk to other musicians and other writers, the more you discover that, I don't know, it might be the only profession where you can be totally, like, you can be an expert. You can have done it for years. You can have a great relationship with it, and you are still awestruck. It's still kind of a mystery. You could be Jacob Collier, you could know everything about music theory, and there's still an element of it that is magical and mysterious to us. It's kind of divine. And
I love the fact that even Segovia, after playing for 60 or 80 years, could biff something. That's what I love about music, is you never really have it mastered. There's always something that's going to trip you up, which
exactly.
I find that incredibly inspirational, actually.
Me too. And that's exactly, like, there's so many different entendres to the name, and one of them is being unmastered, like being the master of your own universe in that way, not looking to get discovered. Then there's that sort of, I call it the cookie scraps thing. It's like you're making cookies and most people throw away the cookie scraps, but they taste just as good as the cookie. So I've always been fascinated by behind the scenes. I will watch, I will scour the internet for can I see, anybody doing stuff behind the scenes? Some of my favorite music documentaries are Sting's Bring on the Night is amazing, amazing, amazing. Rattle and Hum is amazing. There are some actual good music films out there, but the more I watch that kind of stuff, the more I recognize that none of the filmmakers were also the musician. And so often you see the cameras, in my mind, not looking in the right place. Show me his hands. Show me what they're actually doing, And so you've got, I think this chasm between tutorials and music films. And there's this wonderful, inspirational, kind of awesome space in between there that I didn't think anyone was serving. So I'm trying to do that with. My original idea was to do it with lots of musicians because we've been making it in the pandemic. I've been focusing on my own process and on my family. I'm lucky enough to, a lot of my fans know Ram, who's also my pop. And he's a genius bass player and film composer and my absolute musical hero. My mom, most people don't know, is a classical flutist, played Carnegie Hall, all of that stuff. So absolutely, Mike, I get from her, music is bigger than a lifetime. You're never ever going to finish it. And now my brother, who's an amazing writer, has also now recently just become a totally dope music producer. So he's co-producing my whole album. So yeah.
Well, so your mom is definitely better than Ron Burgundy on the flute.
Yes.
Yeah.
My mom,
super awesome.
My mom's so amazing that whenever I hear anyone else play flute, no offense, all of the famous flute players out there, I'm like, is that what people think flute sounds like?
Oh, wait a minute. Is she a flautist? Is that how you say that?
No, she's so cool. My mom is so cool. No, when you say that, she says, I don't play the flout. I play the flute. She's a flutist.
Okay.
She's
nice.
a wonderful flutist. And they've got some amazing albums. If anyone wants to check out kind of neoclassical instrumental stuff, my parents' band was called Present Dreams, and they have some really amazing albums that are out there everywhere. But yeah, so incredible inspiration, and I think I got the humility from from them too. Seeing what it really looks like to really just be dedicated. I grew up being taught that the word religion, when you look up the etymology of the word religion, just means what you practice. So when I remember when I was little, there was little SATs or something to fill out, and it sometimes asks you the sort of survey questions, and it had religion, and I said, what do I put for that? And they said, we practice music. Put in music. You're a musician. That's our religion. That's what we practice. So circling back, playing for 10 people at a time still felt kind of like an honor. I was like, this is still a day that I get to do the thing that I love more than anything else in the world. And then it was just really beautiful and kind of a cool wink from the universe that it ended up growing to millions and millions of people. And then ego death again. Then that place broke down, like Matt said, and had to kind of rebuild and start over. And even that has been kind of beautiful, right? You find all this magic in the madness and the sort of, there's a lot of cool personal growth to do in those sort of ego death moments. You remember why you love things in the first place, why you do them in the first place. And honestly, to be honest, by the end of my first wave of hype, I felt like I was getting known for social media even more than I was getting known for my music. And so I was grateful for a chance to rebuild based on what I do, and so that's what I'm doing now. And I can't wait for everything to get released.
Well, I love that ego death thing, because it's, I've been, my music journalism career goes back, I don't even want to say, let's just say many decades. And I met a lot of very famous people, and some of them are just like you and Matt and I. They just love doing it so much that anything that happens is okay. Because, there's going to be crappy things that are going to happen to you. Your career's going to have moments where it's in tatters. There's going to be great moments. And you really have to kind of be strong and know why you're doing it to survive that, because you are committed to the music. We've all seen people who are in it for another reason, to get girls or guys, or to be famous, or to make money. And those are the people that really just come apart at the seams the first time crap happens. And also, it always, the ego of some people just, it's unbelievable. Like really, we're playing the same crappy club, and use that microphone.
Yeah.
It's weird
out there. I mean, it's hilarious, but I think it's great to hear you make some of those points, because it's really not about who's best or who has this. It's can you set your ego aside and do what makes you happy, and then hopefully other people will be happy because you're happy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think that that's contagious. And if there was another thing I learned from that, I also, in that process, I was really young and it was really overwhelming. And I had to consciously figure out how to like build my happiness from scratch while I was in that sort of eye of that storm. And that was something that I've been able to now hang my hat on, no matter what kind of day it is, no matter what kind of year it is, no matter what's going on. And
what kind of things tripped you up that you had to pull yourself back up and be happy? Are there any specifics you can share?
Sure. I mean, I'm a human person who has feelings. I mean, it's just the whole thing. I had never experienced anything like that before. Just like being a person who is a public person and out there. And I think it was, to be honest, I had a really, really lucky run. I have not had a lot of run-ins with any kind of trolley people or anything like that. Even at the height of what I was doing, I was at 4 million people. And that was still a very kind little corner of the internet that I had kind of accidentally created. And so there were a lot of sweet people there. So it wasn't that. I think more than anything, I was not sleeping. All of a sudden I was a part of a world that was global and that never, I've kind of lost touch with how to physically take care of myself. And it was just kind of emotional being basically a teenage human girl and then not sleeping and not knowing what the heck I was doing. Right. But it was a lot. But also I've always just been a kind of emotional person. I'm an artist. I'm a Pisces. What are you going to do? So I had to figure those things out. And those little ideas, I discovered that they were a lot like writing songs, but way shorter, making these little mantras for myself, little things I could put in my back pocket. So, I had the gratitude shift thing. So if I caught myself as okay, find all the things to be grateful for in this moment and tap into that feeling. Because you kind of can't be grateful and be afraid at the same time, or grateful and sad at the same time. It's a good fix-all, I think. And then one of the other ones that I loved talking about and sharing with people was this kind of idea of fierce joy. It was just sort of this joy that you do intentionally and kind of build up for yourself. And it's not a pie in the sky kind of sunshine and rainbows thing. It's something that you build from your soul. And those things really worked. I've made lots more of those little things over time. They're all kind of woven into the TED Talks that I've done and stuff like that. And now they've started to become songs, which is really fun too. I actually have a Fierce Joy song that's probably going to be on the album. But you made me think of something when you were talking about the guys that you have met who it is whoa, ego. And I think that's another reason why I got so excited about zeroing in on the writing process and the magic of the creative process is I realized, because I've met a lot of those people too now. And the thing that I love is that when it comes to writing, when it's something from nothing, I think everybody has to come and kneel at the same altar and start from scratch every time. And that's what I've learned just talking to people about this process. And so that song that hasn't been born yet doesn't care if you have 20 Grammys, you still have to come and start and pull it out of the air,
There's nothing there and you have to create it. And sometimes even, everyone's human. When someone has criticized something that I've written, I usually go, yeah, I wrote it. What did you do? Because everybody thinks it's better, but it's kind of this is from nothing, man. I'm happy with it. Sorry you don't dig it. Move on.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best feeling, right? When it doesn't even feel like you wrote it. And I feel like we write every day to hit those moments where it just comes through and you're like, where did that come from?
I found one reason why I'm not really a prolific writer is if there's something I need to write something for, I can do it. But basically I just kind of walk around and bump into stuff and walk the dogs and wash the dishes. And all of a sudden, boom, an idea comes and that's the best. Are you someone who, uses that as a method, or do you actually have a notebook and every day you have your hour to sit down and write, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, and I love talking about this process so much. It's so fun because everybody's different. I think so. Just recently, I just finished those 100 days of live shows, right? And that for me unlocked this whole new experience with daily practice. And I'm the first person to admit that I have not ever been a daily practice person. Like, I always admired my mom in that respect. Classical music has a very intense level of discipline. I've always been more of a singer-songwriter, like more from sort of the rock sort of side of things, where it's like, yeah, it's like swing for the fences, like I write some amazing song 1 month and then you're just living off of that for a month. And before you know it, you got to sit down and do another thing. But so now I'm starting to approach it in the same way and watching how it just expands exponentially, like music constantly gives back like a millionfold what you put in. So now I'm kind of excited about the investment of that time and energy. But I do have to say that I am always singing and I'm always thinking up concepts and ideas. And so my voice memos are they're monstrous. The iPhones get bigger and bigger because the voice memos are endless. So I'm always humming a melody in and a lyric in. And I usually find that my favorite ideas are when the lyrics and the melody come at the same time. And yeah, I've also been writing on piano. I know this is the rock show, but I've been writing on piano for like the first time in my life, which has been really fun too. Just like total child's mind because I don't know what I'm doing so well on there. But I mean, we can totally talk guitars too. I know I'm sitting with a couple of guitar heroes here.
This may shock you, but there are pianos in rock music.
I know. They're great pianos in rock music. And I have to say, I have been raised on rock. Like, so many of my influences come from, let's see, I've talked about this a few times. And Matt, I don't know if we've talked about this, but like Andy Summers from The Police is like one of my absolute guitar heroes. Dave Matthews, I don't know if people put him all the way in the rock category. He's kind of in the singer-songwriter category, but he sort of taught me everything I know just from learning every Dave song I could get my hands on. But I was also raised on a healthy dose of prog, like Yes, and really cool stuff from all different decades. And so all of those things have filtered in over time. I love myself a good odd meter, stuff like that.
I will say one thing that I really liked about Daria is she doesn't have a singer-songwriter mentality approach to the guitar where it's like cowboy chords and just, she does have a technical kind of like some of the stuff she plays. I think it's kind of Andy Summer-esque, is kind of hard to do. It's not easy. And it's like involves some pretty wide fret stretches and things like that.
It's like if everybody thinks they can play Message in a Bottle until they see Andy Summers do it.
Oh, okay. I'm putting this on the list of things to play for you guys, but I have to come back and like do a show for you guys. I would really love to do that. Yeah. Message in a Bottle and Dave Matthews Satellite, very similar, those big ninth chord stretches. And I also have tiny hands on top of everything. So I think that was just one of those challenges. Yes. Oh, I love it.
Mine. Stop that.
No, I think I just maybe.
Let's see your hands.
Matt's
Matt's got lead guitar hands.
Dude, look, this is just one of my fingers right here. This is one of my fingers.
But what was that thing you just having a senior moment? But it's just funny to there it went. But
the ninth chord stretches, maybe like that. Once I saw that, I was like, go.
I was always one of those. Punk rock really informed, the Beatles and then punk rock and the Who and all that. But I always hated prog, but I love psychedelic music.
Oh,
and it took me a while to go, oh crap, I really am a prog rocker. These extended sections and stuff like that.
Totally.
I would just call it. I just wouldn't call it prog rock. I would call it, it's psychedelic. But
Yeah. Hey man, my company's called Unlabeled, so I'm not into genre titles either. Anyway, I mean, none of that is important. But Matt, you're so sweet. I feel very excited that you even noticed. I love I think the best compliment you can get when you play something is that someone says it made them feel something, and that's what I'm always looking for. But when you're hanging out with other musicians, it's cool to have like the secret stuff, the secret sauce noticed.
No,
And
I'm the guy in the audience that's doing this.
Yeah, I know. You're the scary guy.
That's why musicians suck to perform for, because they never really. And I got to say that I love people that don't play for other musicians, because we really don't matter in a sense. Whatever we say doesn't matter. It's that 23-year-old person who just broke up with somebody and is being uplifted by your song.
Yeah.
To me, that's the reason I exist as a performer. I could care less what another musician has to say.
But I definitely think that I did approach that kind of consciously. Like, it was mostly born out of the kind of music that I love, but I also had this concept of like, people know that I love my Taylors, and that I do a lot of cool stuff with Taylor guitars. But when I started, I asked for a baby blue Fender Strat. I was like, I need to rock out like I am not a folk musician. Like, that was me. I was like, I'm not a folk musician. Like, don't call me that. And then it was really funny, because once I started writing, my first guitar teacher was like, you should probably also get an acoustic. But I would force him to show me the stuff that he didn't think I wanted to learn. And like I said, just tried to break down Police songs and break down Dave Matthews songs and figure out these weird phrases. And that was one of my favorite things to do. One of my favorite hooks for writing is I end up feeling more like I'm duetting with the guitar. So I try to write a lot with lines. I am not a soloer. I do not feel comfortable like riffing in front of people in that way.
Dude, no.
But I can write a line and play a line and play an odd metered thing and kind of weave in and out. And that's a really fun thing to do. So yeah, songs like Message in a Bottle, that's really good territory.
Dude, that I was the #1 Google Helpouts instructor. And the one thing that I taught people, I taught them how to be a lead guitarist in 5 minutes.
Okay.
And I will show you something that will blow your mind. It's just, you just look at things. George Lynch taught me this. And you just look at the fretboard in a series of shapes and the relationships of the shapes and how the shapes repeat. And man, as long as you know what you have to, the chord scale relationship, which is not that hard to learn, you can, you can come up with some really awesome stuff and not even,
that's great. Easy. I'll trade you for a voice lesson then, because I have a pretty good track record with like getting people's range to just explode.
I'm tracking in the studio in less than a month, so maybe we'll talk.
Let's get you ready for that. Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
It's funny because Les Paul, who knew everything, but he said to me once, if you can't hear something in your head and play it, you're never going to be an awesome guitar player. And that kind of resonated, because all of a sudden, the boxes and stuff like that maybe this needs to go by. And I need to be able to hear in my head, and just go,
Yeah.
He was right about that, because that guy, he could react to anything. If all of a sudden the bass player, had a brain aneurysm and started, playing in the key of, Z major, Les Paul was right there with him.
It's my favorite key. That's so funny that you say that. I was going to say, when it comes to solos or writing lines, I'm Jack Black in School of Rock. I'll sing the solo and then I'll figure the solo out. So that's my main voice. Will always be my first instrument for sure.
Well, that'll be a good teacher, because he's an awesome lead player himself. So
I know.
Even Timberland produces with his voice. He writes his beats with his voice. He sings them into the microphone.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great way to compose.
It's when you look at everybody from George Martin or the early days of the 50s of record production up to today, there's so much data. It's kind of intimidating, and at the same time, it's kind of awesome, because you realize that you can do anything, and somebody else has probably done it, so you're okay. If you're in a corner going, I think this is weird. Who's going to have a triangle in the middle of a heavy metal song? And then, of course, somebody will have done that, like Black Sabbath did that in 1971. it's kind of liberating in a way.
It is.
Ed Grimley's playing triangle on my album, so
That's
I don't know if you guys remember the Martin Short guy,
Yeah.
the character on Saturday Night Live, the triangle player, Ed Grimley. Oh,
Yeah.
Daria, you've got to look up Martin Short, Ed Grimley, Saturday Night Live. He's a professional triangle player.
Okay, I know the cowbell thing.
It's so funny. It's so funny. Check it out.
We moved beyond cowbells.
It is fascinating though. Like I'm not joking when I'm like such a music nerd. I mean, I'm just a nerd in general. I just love learning about stuff. But when you look through music history and you actually look at how things got shaken up just by different instruments getting invented, or I mean, you can go all the way back. And again, that influence from my mom. I know all of these stories about classical music and like, I mean, we know probably about Stravinsky blowing people's minds, but even before that, like, I think it was Brahms. People thought what he was doing was like, it was either satanic or like just pornographic. Like the chords were too sensual. They were too beautiful.
Right.
People were like running out of the theaters, like traumatized, and it's thrilling. We keep evolving our sense of what's possible and what's cool and stuff that sounded crazy. You go back a couple of years later and it sounds gorgeous. I recently, during my 100 days, I wanted to cover some songs that I love and wanted to take apart and enjoy, and kind of, put them on and get inside them. And I remember I did, I think it was Lithium, Nirvana. And I was like, oh, everybody says Nirvana is like, it was so hardcore. And I was like, these songs are beautiful. The melodies are stunning. Like, this is lyrical. It didn't sound heavy to me at all. So, yeah.
Even when you go back to, my era, like the Sex Pistols, this is punk rock, this is horrible stuff. And you realize that's a pop record,
Yeah, totally.
Nevermind the Bullocks is a pop rock record by any definition. But something else you said that kind of cracked me up about, oh God, what were you just talking about? It's like my brain is going too fast. And
I'm sorry, I ramble. We were talking about music history and different instruments.
Well, let's forget that. Oh, it was I love Stravinsky in the 30s, and I kind of miss today that when Stravinsky and Cocteau and Picasso did this ballet in the 30, or maybe it was 29 or something. There was a riot in the theater. Like it was so amazing. It affected people so much that people were beating the crap out of each other. And while I don't want to have that happen, the fact that music at certain times has been able to get that intense a reaction from people,
right,
is pretty powerful.
Which is back to the Neural Tunes thing. Music is medicine. It's definitely, we've known this for forever, that it profoundly affects people's emotional state.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say I can take it even further there. Like, totally blow your mind. You guys probably know this. I don't think enough musicians do know this though. So like we're broadcasting it out into the world now. It's pretty much proven at this point, or scientists have basically decided that string theory is probably the theory of everything that Einstein was searching for. Mm-hmm. And I recently, so there's a really, this, again, nerdy territory, but a really brilliant scientist named Michio Kaku who's come out with a new book about this sort of like God theory that Einstein was looking for and saying it is string theory. What I didn't realize, the way he described it, is that so string theory, basically all it means is that everything in the universe is composed of like basically a little rubber band, a little looped string. But here's the thing that changes stuff into other stuff. The string is just vibrating at different frequencies, but it's always the same string. So the string is vibrating slightly differently in me, and it's making me, and then it's making you guys, and it's making this computer, and it's making the songs. And I'm like, well, this is the answer to why music is a universal language, why it touches all of us, why it goes directly through straight to our hearts, is that I think we're actually playing with the building blocks of matter, And so it's pretty cool that in a society where there's so much stuff to focus on and you get pushed in so many different directions, I think every musician should be proud that I think our little, sonars led us to the thing that might just be the most important, whether it seems like it's the most important in society or not. I think we're actually the ones playing with with the real science of how everything is made.
And we probably missed a chance during the darkness of the last 10 or so years, where everybody's at each other's throats, or going back to the Civil War or World War II or the Cold War. Maybe all the musicians should have just got together and hummed an F sharp or something. Maybe
seriously, B flat. Yeah,
made everything better. But I wanted to ask you too, when sometimes when people write, one thing that always has tripped me out, when I have put my producer hat on, is somebody will have a good song and completely miss the emotional content of what they've written and how they present that song to the public. It misses something because they weren't looking at, how do I sing this? How do I phrase this? What's the instrumentation? How loud's this? How loud's that? What do I bring in? When you and your brother, I think it's hilarious that you're working with him as a co-producer too. I mean, if it was my I would be fighting on the floor the whole time. But I didn't mean anything creepy by that, by the way. But it just how do you, when you get a song done, do you visualize what it needs to sound like in the studio, or do you get it down like by putting a basic track and then decide what the building blocks are going to be? And in other words, how do you manifest that song as an emotional context outside of the fact it's just chords and melody?
Yeah. I think that in my case, when I'm writing, it usually feels like the emotionality is baked in, I mean, that's actually not something I consciously think about that much. I usually have to like consciously not cry while I'm singing it if it's really emotional for me, like that stuff's kind of already baked in. I think that happens more for me when I'm writing the lyrics, really asking myself, like, am I going all the way into this? Am I going deep enough? Am I pulling out those details that are going to bring it to life, and really trying to dial in the writing process. So for me, maybe the emotionality it's locked somewhere in there between the melody and the words. Then when it comes to performing, I mean, that's one thing I'm really grateful to have my 10,000 hours in, like I've really, performing is my favorite place to live, sort of, writing a great song can be a bit of a battle sometimes. Like it can be beautiful, and it can also be like you're wrestling with something, but the performing of it for me is always euphoric. I've practiced knowing how to snap into that other place that is a meditation or a flow state or something where everything else drops away. And so it's so addictive to be in that place that I just want to sing all the time. So for me, when I'm in the studio, I'm actually a little bit of a menace because I will just I want to keep singing. I want to do take after take after take. I want to find exactly if I'm looking for something in the studio, I'm looking for texture. Because I've honed my voice in such a way that I love playing with it, and I can do a lot of different things now. And so, yeah, like I was just recording something today and I was like, oh, but wait, let me do it again and really get that like little thing going on here. Or like, I'm going to bleed this note out into there, and I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to finish the note that way. And so I get kind of obsessed with the granular like textures of what I can get out of my voice. And then with producing it and like building it out, I love collaborating on that. I lean into my family right now and into my guys. Sometimes I'll get hit with a sense of what I want to do, but almost always that's more like almost sound designy, and I think that that's something really exciting about where music is going now, is that I think a lot of young artists are playing more with almost like sound design and ASMR, and it's almost like you're scoring films that don't exist, and I love that stuff. So I'm like, oh, there needs to be, like cicadas that sound like a synth wave, and then it should start really dry and then get really wet. And things like that are sort of the things that occur to me when I'm writing. But a lot of the harmony and the stretching of the music, like seeing where it can go in that way, comes from the influence of my pop from Ram as a real composer. That's one of the coolest things, is I can bring him the seed. Like I weave this beautiful little thread of a song, and it's just me and the guitar, and that's kind of where I live, and that's what I know. And then he'll build this thing out, and sometimes I'll go, oh, try that. But more often than not, we've worked together for such a long time now. I could write something that's like, he could take Mary Had a Little Lamb and make it sound like some sort of revelation in the reharmonization of it, so that's always really cool.
Check it out, Daria.
Yes.
What does this make you feel like? Watch this.
Okay. Oh my God. Rob Michael, what's up, my brother? How are you?
I tried to get him to come. I tried to get him to come in, but he's teaching a lesson right now. So
oh, that's so great. He's doing his thing. I love it. We really do have to just get the whole band back together. That has been one really weird thing. Michael, I feel like you asked me a long time ago and I probably went off on some other train of thought, but during the pandemic, watching and seeing everyone kind of catch up, Matt, to what we were doing with Hangouts.
Yeah.
And it still kind of blows my mind that the technology has not gotten any better.
Oh, how annoying is it? You're just you're like, Clubhouse, really? That's what's going to change the world?
I mean, Clubhouse is cute, but yeah, I know, Matt, that you're a founder and a CEO now, and you're doing amazing stuff with Neural Tunes. And, let's talk again in a year. I'm on the very baby beginnings of the path to maybe becoming a founder myself, because I'm like, we can do this better, guys. And so I've made, a lot of notes over the years about the things that I love about the way this works, about being able to sing for people in this way, perform for people in this way, and connect in this way. And then have watched so many platforms just sort of not get it, like not get what is magical about that and about the interaction between you and the audience that can be both scaled to a crazy level and also be so personal and so intimate. So I got some ideas. I'm working on some stuff.
It is. To me, it's interesting where there's so much that technology has given us. But on a certain level, just pre-COVID, I would go to a live concert where there's probably like gazillions of dollars of sound equipment. And it sounds just as bad as the Beatles in Shea Stadium in 1964,
Right.
It sounds thin, and it's like, how do you blow this with all this technology in front of you? Now, I guess you could say, well, maybe the sound person isn't that good, but it's more than that. I haven't really figured it out. And at least for, let's say internet or web music, it's a static thing. So why haven't you figured that out? Why haven't people dealt with the latency? Because it's not going anywhere. There's not air currents flowing through here. There's not, it sounds different if 1,000 people are in here than 7,000 people in here.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, and even alluded to, I think the features, because Matt and I have had to, and the other guys, Christian Brady and Brian Talaby, and Takai, who are working with us on the Neural Tunes thing, it is really important to kind of get the feature set down. And it's amazing to me when you see a musician start an initiative and blow it. It's like, what musicians want to hear and how they want to interact and how they're odd and how music fans want to interact. How did you get it so wrong?
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
All I know is that I'm becoming a filmmaker now because copying Daria has worked really good for me. So I'm just gonna do that.
So I'm going to depend on you guys, because there's so many musicians who are in the film industry right now, and you can still go see a movie about music, not a documentary, but somebody makes a new movie about musicians, and just get it so wrong. Like, oh, come on, nobody talks that way. That's not what a sound check is about. That's not what a studio session's about. It's ridiculous. Although, did either of you see Sound of Metal?
Yes. Oh my God. What did you think of that? Right.
And it's about a heavy metal drummer, Matt, who loses his hearing.
Oh, Matt, I didn't know. You have to see this. Yeah. And it's Riz Ahmed, and he's just a genius in it. And Michael, I totally agree. I said the same thing. I mean, I was bawling and heartbroken and also really moved in an uplifting way. But I was like, that might be the best music movie I've ever seen. They
got a lot of the stuff right.
Yeah. He trained, like he learned to become a drummer. So he's really playing. So they don't have to do that awkward thing where here's my head and then here's somebody else's hands.
Well, I'm even talking about, you'll see a movie and it's like the guitar's not plugged in. And there's
No, I know.
10,000 people, you know, it's
they
like,
miss the craziest things. I know. You know, the only other movie that I thought nailed it recently was Soul, the Pixar movie, which
I didn't see that.
Okay. Oh, you're gonna love it. I mean, so it's John Baptiste, you know, the brilliant pianist.
Oh yeah.
Who I actually kind of know. He's the sweetest person, exactly what he seems like he is on the Colbert Show. That is what he is all the time. He's just the sweetest guy in the world. But because it's his hands and he composed all those parts and the lead character is basically him, and they just what's it called? Like, you know, motion mapped his body, not just his hands, but his whole body. That character really behaves like a real musician and the parts are really cool. So yeah, I thought that movie really got it as well. But again, this is why I think, you know, I have no desire to be like an actual director of big movies, but documentary film is something that I'm realizing I adore. And having a musician behind the camera, I think, makes a crazy difference.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that since you're gonna pull Matt along with you, because Matt copies everything you do. But even man, if I can't turn on Access TV anymore, because I'm so tired of seeing, you know, and I've got nothing against young people, I really don't, but they pick people who are pretty for these documentaries, like on the Beach Boys, and everybody voice this Wikipedia bullshit where it's like, you know, Brian Wilson used to write in a sandbox. I mean, I just want to kick the TV through it's like, you got to be kidding me. It's like, this is valuable stuff. This person was responsible for so much music, and that's how you're going to go. And there's a lot of documentaries, sadly, who take the easy way out.
I totally agree. Yeah, I grew up just trying to devour anything I could find about the musicians that I loved and about music. And even, you know, with YouTube now, where you can find tons of live shows of all the people you admire, and that's a great way to go. There's still the people behind the camera are not often asking the right questions, and they're not looking in the right places. And then most people just don't turn on cameras where I think all of that magic is happening, you know, behind the scenes. And it's beginning to change more and more, but I think people are beginning to wake up again to the real value of music. I think that there's absolutely a new music revolution brewing. Mm-hmm. I think we are at the very beginning of a very exciting time where music is going to potentially be valued at like where it should actually be valued. There's some interesting stuff happening. And I think that more video music content, not just music videos, but more shows about music and more stuff that brings you into that process is going to be a part of that too. And also I'm, you know, slightly passionate about not only having women in front of and behind the camera, but telling those stories as well. Cause I find that you can just bring a different perspective. I mean, as a different kind of person, I have a particular way that I like talking about stuff and kinds of questions I like asking. And so I'm excited to bring that voice.
It's time, because you can imagine, I mean, you know, I'm not down on my sex, but it was disappointing, you know, to be the editor-in-chief of Guitar Player magazine for so long. And, you know, the guitar really is a boys club, you know, it has been until recently. And so there's tons of data about men, by men, for men. And I think it's about time that we now broaden that out, because you're right. You're going to ask different questions than I'm going to ask. It doesn't mean that you're more or less valuable than I am, or I'm more valuable than you, but having the perspectives, it just enriches the dialogue.
Absolutely.
And you know, we've only heard one side. You know, I like to piss off, you know, my male friend guitar players, but we've only really heard one side of the dialogue for a long time. It's been us talking about going woo woo, you know. That's all you hear, you know.
Well, it's like you make different music when you're writing music to pick up chicks versus, you know, writing songs to change the world. So like, you know, as a 80s rock guitarist, you know, that in my brain, you know, I picked up the guitar to try to get a girlfriend. Like that's why I did it. I'm not gonna lie.
Girls don't not do that too, but I think that it is cool to see the creative approach and different perspectives of female players. It's thrilling to look at, like, I mean, the people that just pop into my head. I mean, obviously in a slightly more traditional guitar playing style, like Her is completely killing it. You guys are familiar with Her?
Oh yeah.
If not, you got it. Yeah, she's incredible. So she can rip solos with the best of them. But my mind goes to like Joni Mitchell playing in her amazing open tunings and just even holding the guitar in different ways and stuff like that.
I took a course at Berkeley on Joni Mitchell.
Oh, that's
of
awesome.
her finger style.
Yeah,
and it was it was probably one of the best courses I took. It's amazing what she did with the acoustic guitar. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I like I mean, it's interesting when you get someone like her who can rip, and you don't want to put a line of demarcation between males and females, but it's almost like part of me goes, we've set this thing up where everybody has to play that same game. You kind of have to be macho to be a lead guitar player. So I kind of veer a little bit off to the St. Vincent and Yvette Young side of things, where they're coming up with their own dialogue that has nothing to do with shredding per se, even though they can.
Although I think Her does bring an R&B, like a soulful sensibility that is not always present in that style, but really, really great mentions. Yvette Young, she's so dope. I mean, you go into that whole world of the Khaki Kings of the world and people like that for sure. Well,
before we go, we're getting to the top of the hour, and I hate to interrupt this awesome conversation.
Yeah, I can hang out with you guys all night. This is great.
I know. I want to know about that Taylor.
We would be on this all night.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
I want to know about that Taylor electric guitar back there.
Isn't she pretty? Wait.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. They don't make these anymore.
I know. I remember those when they came out. That's such a gorgeous guitar.
I know. They don't make them anymore. They're so beautiful.
I should probably know this. It's embarrassing that I don't. But did they discontinued that, huh?
Yeah, they stopped making it. I don't know if it's the last thing of this nature that they'll ever make. I shan't say anything else. But this model, this guy doesn't exist anymore. And this is my Wayne's World guitar. This is the She Will Be Mine. I just love this thing so much. I mean, the cool thing about Taylor's is, I mean, the thing they're famous for is the neck and the playability, and the shape and size and action on a Taylor neck is just something that I'm really comfortable with, as for the aforementioned tiny hands. And so when they started doing like semi-hollows and solid bodies, I was like, this is my way in, or my way back, because I did start on that Fender back in the day. But this guitar, and they have something called the T5. That's their
That's the hollow body, right?
Yeah, it's the hollow body. That one's that's actually the one I'm known for over there. I've done quite a few little sponsored artist videos that I made for them on that guitar, because I'm obsessed with it, because it is kind of, I think that guitar pisses a lot of people off because it's not an electric guitar and it's not an acoustic guitar. It's this weird unicorn guitar. And I really embraced that. I was like, this is the thing. I can do everything that's in my head. I can do it on this thing. And so yeah, that one's one of my favorites to play. But this is
I do love musicians who find a way through a piece of gear. I mean, I think Taylor was a little bit surprised because they do awesome work. I think
they do.
They probably thought they were going to sell a lot more electric guitars than they did. For some reason, that just didn't really blow up.
I think it was before.
I don't know why. Do you know why?
No, I just think it was before its time a little bit. I remember seeing it when it came out, and I was like, that's a really cool concept guitar.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of disappeared. And I could tell, I was like, they're going to have a hard time selling that because it's different. And so it's so different is either oh my gosh, it's so different, I love it. Or it's oh, it's different, I don't want to deal with that, And it's a hard thing to do that, market it, probably.
Well, now we got, some guitar players like piezo pickups. Some guitar players hate the fact that they're kind of scrunchy sounding. And now, of course, we've got modeling, into units where an acoustic, whether it's a Martin or a Line 6 Variax, you can pick a sound that really does sound like a Gibson Jumbo, Oh, hey, there's Kevin. Ian Common. Hey, Kevin, he's an amazing pedal maker, by the way.
Ooh.
He and I are actually collaborating on some pup pedals named after my dogs, which are upcoming soon. But he says, "Hey guys,
Ooh, I want one of those."
He has small fingers too. This guy, Kevin's also an amazing guitar player who does like mind-blowing stuff, even with small hands.
That's awesome. Hi, Kevin.
And a good point there too. I had to be different to get the gig. I think
same.
I mentioned this before, where I talked to Neil Finn of Crowded House, and he said, you know, all that stuff you hate about yourself, that's your advantage.
Exactly.
And I think that too many times as musicians, we try to be, well, I need to be Clapton, I need to be Stevie, I need to be St. Vincent, and really, you just need to be you.
It's true. It sounds platitudinous, but it's really, really true. No, it is. I always say, like, I realize the best thing you can do, and Matt is a brilliant example of this, is you have to just like rip a U-shaped hole in the universe that only you can fill. And then you're never in competition with anyone, and you're always killing it because that's you. That's what you do. And I couldn't agree more. And Kevin, you sound awesome. So congrats. But yeah, whether it's you or the instrument or how you're playing it or whatever, I think when you make those little mental shifts, everything kind of changes and opens up. And that's something that I've become passionate about over time too, is like talking to other artists and talking to other artistpreneurs and like giving people that tag and being like, you can take this on in a different way. Cause I think we all have to find our way to that. And taking that sense of like pride and ownership and like, hey, I could do this and I can be good at more than one thing and I can learn new skills and I can take on more stuff than I thought I was capable of. And every time you sort of put all those extra feathers in your cap, you know, you realize you become more and you keep growing and it's exciting.
Well, to use an example that I'm sure you'll dig, it's, you know, when the Police got together and they were doing the punk thing, it was kind of like, okay, we're doing this, everybody's doing it. But when they finally decided that Stuart Copeland was a drummer like nobody else, you know, Sting was a bass player and singer like nobody else, and Andy came in and said, I'm not doing bar chords.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's when that band became a juggernaut, you know,
Totally.
Just disparate personalities who sometimes can't stay in the same room without beating each other up. But definitely the music they made is astounding, you know.
It is. It truly is. Yeah. It's absolutely like find your weird and go for it because that's where all the good stuff is. And I think it's a thrilling time to be a musician. Like I said, I think there's a new revolution happening. But even if you look at what's like popular now, I think the weirder the better. People are down. It's like all the sort of preconceived genres and things that you thought you had to do, all of that's out the window. Even the like age or pretty or any of that stuff, none of that stuff matters anymore. It's kind of like, how out there do you want to go? And I think people want to go with you. It's exciting.
I'm 50 years old and I'm getting ready to release my first professional track.
There you go, man.
And it's going to have all like awesome players. It's going to be, except for me, you know, so it's going to be, no, I'm just kidding.
But I think your generation, the generation coming up behind you, you know, even though I came up in the Summer of Love thing, you know, we really didn't stick to everybody's a rainbow. You know, there was ageism and you know, my whole career was, oh, really? That's too weird. You know, you got to sound like what's on the radio today.
Right.
Or we on it, you know, for the most part. I mean, obviously some major artists popped out of there, but, you know, it wasn't, it was the exception, not the rule. And now, I mean, you're right. I love the fact that this generation, you know, I could have a hit, Matt could have a hit, you could have a hit.
Totally.
Weird stuff. We could decide to just step on a fuzz pedal for 5 minutes on an A chord and people could dig it. I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing time where we're all finding people who like something different. So how awesome.
Yeah. It is. It is.
New generation, Daria.
Thank you very much. We're happy to have you. I feel like, yeah, it's a big tent. Everybody in, you know, one of my other little like phrases that I came up with that I love is just the idea of like being unlabeled, you know, and so you said like trying to, you know, get signed or those things and you had all those problems. Like we don't even have to worry about that stuff now, you know? And so with the internet, with being able to play for a bajillion people from your living room, from your bedroom, people are making Grammy-winning albums, like literally in their bedrooms. It's a really unlabeled time. Like you don't need to be on a label. You don't have to put yourself in a genre in any kind of box. You just sort of. I think when you strip away the labels that you put on yourself and even on your music, and you don't have those anymore, you're forced to be truly present with what you are, with what the music is. When you strip away those preconceived notions about other people, then you're present with them. And then, man, that stuff can just expand and you can discover so much more that you didn't realize was there.
And you never have a bad A&R person sitting in the studio, snorting, going, I got it. Maracas.
Right.
We're going to
open that happen to you?
Of maracas.
Michael, we have to do a whole second show where you can just share your stories. I don't know if that happened to you, but man,
you should interview Michael.
I'm here for you. No maracas. I would totally interview you.
Yeah,
Matt, we need to have a Clubhouse show where we talk to other musicians.
Let's do it.
Well, Matt, now Matt's going to be on my case again, Daria. So thanks a lot for that.
Sorry.
All right. Well, we gotta wrap it up. But I don't go away, by the way, when I stop. But no, it's cool. I want to tell you something. All right. Well, so let's give everybody a kind of let's go around the horn. Give everybody like closing remarks. So we'll start with Daria.
Oh,
what do you got? Wrap it up. What you got?
Okay. I love you guys and thanks for having me. And that was really fun. And thank you everyone watching. And yeah, if you didn't know me before, I'm Daria. I'm just at Daria Musk everywhere. Yeah. And the website's been scrolling across the thing too. And like I said, I just sang like 100 songs in 100 days. So if you go to my Instagram, you can see all of those. And I'm going to be doing a lot more live streams on the different platforms and starting to release stuff about the series and about the album and all of that. So I'd love to be your friend and sing for you and have you along for the journey. And I think you guys are great. On to Matt. Yes.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have. You know what? I always get the last word. I'm gonna give Michael the last word today. All right. Well, thank you again, Daria, for being here. Your inspiration. Honestly, pretty much nothing that has happened to me in the last 20 years or the last 10 years that has related to entertainment. Like all of that stuff is because of you. So I wanted to thank you for being an inspiration.
That's crazy, man. Thank you so much.
You're going to make me tear up.
Yeah. Close up. Time for the close up.
Yeah.
Extreme close up.
Well, I just want to say thank you for being on the show, Daria. And by the way, Kingdom of Rock, what have Matt and I been telling you? It takes a lot of work to get anything going in this music industry, even though it's going to accept you and it's going to be open to you. If you don't do the work, you're not going to get it. Did you listen to how hard Daria's worked on her stuff? You don't just write a song and say, it's going to be fine. I'm going to go viral. Listen to what we're telling you. We're not trying to be your daddies or your mommies. We're just telling you, it takes a lot of work. Keep listening. Right, Matt? You
do the work. Do the work.
Do what we say. Do what we say. Now I am being your.
All right.
I love it.
And the next show, Daria is going to be an accomplished lead guitarist. Just so you guys know.
Okay. Yes, I'm so excited.
We're going to do this.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Kingdom of Rock out. Thank you guys for tuning in. Just to let you know, we do this every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, PDT during daylight savings time. And we let's see, that would be 7 p.m. What?
Who's on next week? Who's on next week?
I don't think I have a guest yet. I've been too busy.
I guess next week, but we'll be here though.
I'll come back and play.
We'll be here. Yeah, maybe Daria has a concert next week.
You'll do a lead guitar concert because Matt will have you all ready.
Yeah, I'd love to come back and play for you guys.
Let's get Stuart Copeland on here and Andy Summers, and we'll get like, I don't know if we can do that.
Yeah, Andy.
My heart just jumped into my throat.
And Matt told me about your Andy Summers connection. I was trying because I've known him for 40 years to see.
Oh my God.
He's on Andy time, you know. and that guy, I can't believe how many projects he's got going in his mid-70s. You know, he's doing photography. He's got signature cameras. He's like, you know, doing music.
Awesome.
He's playing with all kinds of people.
Artistpreneur. Right there. That's so cool.
He's crazy. But there are stories we can tell behind closed doors if you want.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. Well, cool. Well, let's end the show so we can hear Mike's secret stories. All right. See you guys next week.
Bye,
Kingdom of Rock is out. Oh, by the way, if you're on Clubhouse, check us out every Monday from 6 p.m. till way late in the evening, early morning. Music, tech startups for musicians and creatives. So if you are thinking about getting into tech and you're an artist, or you want to interface with artists from other industries, we kind of have a discussion on Clubhouse every Monday about the intersection of music, tech, and business. So
that show is fire. You have to come. I've been coming for 2 or 3 weeks now. It's insane. You are not going to believe the people that pop into that room. It's awesome. Yeah. Everybody come.
Last week was crazy. It was amazing.
It was awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kingdom of Rock out. See you guys next week.